Thank you so much for coming tonight. You're watching Young Female Entrepreneurs, the live stream that we do every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. 9 Eastern Time. And this evening, we've got a few awesome guests on. First of all, we're welcoming in Ryan Paugh of the Young Entrepreneurs Council, and he's going to be talking about Fix Young America. Now, this is a huge campaign that they just launched last week. It's been in Time Magazine, Mashable, anywhere that you read on a daily basis, you've probably seen the headline somewhere. So we're going to be asking him some questions as far as why a young female entrepreneur needs to pay attention to this campaign and what we can do to help out. So apart from that, we're also debuting the Granny Cart Productions YFE profile. Very excited about this. These are two women that met in grad school, came together and produced a company after knowing each other for a year, basically. So they've got a fantastic story that I know you're all learn a lot from, and hopefully we'll have some fun discussion. We have the live chat up on facebook.com/youngfemaleentrepreneurs if you are watching over on live stream. And pop over there. Let me know if you have any questions for Ryan or for either of the two women that will be on later on. But before we welcome Ryan in, I just wanted to mention quickly that Crave, the Crave Company, they're an international company in Amsterdam, Canada, a few other places. They have an awesome series coming up called Women Collaborators or Competitors. And that is actually in Seattle, where I am, up on March 28th from 6:30 to 8:30. And I'd welcome all of you to come. I'm on the panel. And with each one of these chats that they're doing in cities across the world, really, they're going to be welcoming in women that are leaders in women's organizations to chat on a panel. It's a great opportunity for you to learn what type of resources are in your area, and also meet other women that are doing similar things as you. So definitely go over to youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com. Tomorrow I'll have more information about that on the site. For now, though, I want to welcome in Ryan Paugh. Like I said, he's with the Young Entrepreneur Council. Welcome to the show, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jennifer. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm a huge fangirl of Ryan and Scott. Scott Gerber is kind of your wingman for the Young Entrepreneur
I think I'm more
Council.
his wingman, but we're a really good team. And, we're lucky to have members like you in the organization who help us do amazing things.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what the Young Entrepreneur Council is in the first place?
So we're an invite-only nonprofit organization. We're comprised of top young entrepreneurs around the country and around the world. And together we all are trying to do amazing things for the entrepreneurship ecosystem, provide better mentorship opportunities, better educational opportunities, and better resources to young entrepreneurs everywhere.
Yeah, and so Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role in the organization and how you got started in it? Because you have a really fascinating background that I didn't know too much about before I looked into the YEC.
Sure. So, I've been an entrepreneur for about 5 to 6 years now. Since I graduated college, really, I spent about 8 months in the corporate world and actually used that time to start my own business called Brazen Careerist. And that's a social network and career network for young, ambitious professionals. I've been doing that for the past 4 years. And then I met Scott when the organization was just getting off the ground, and it was just a very small group of about 50 entrepreneurs from around the country, and I got invited to be one of the first. I thought it was a really good idea, and as a community builder at heart, I saw an opportunity, and I just started working with Scott on figuring out ways to build this into a next generation entrepreneurship organization. And I worked starting as an advisor and then came on full time, and now I'm the chief of staff managing all of our operations.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the operations? Because I've recently attended one of your meetings that was virtual, and you've got some really impressive people that are on your staff.
We do. We're really lucky. We have a whole arm of our operation that is focused on editorial content, providing really great PR and media opportunities to our members. And that's led by Lindsay Donner, who's our executive editor. Really awesome person, and I've known her since way back when we started the Brazen Careers community. She was one of our early adopters. So I've known her for a while, and I'm excited to get to work with her on the YEC team. Then on the other side of the equation, we have Jennifer Edwards, who is another person who I've had the pleasure of working with in the past through a project I did with Monster.com last summer. They launched a application called Be Known to help young professionals get connected. And Jennifer is our community manager and responsible for helping members get the most out of the organization, whether that's networking with other members, taking part in our virtual or in-person events, and pretty much anything else that they need.
Awesome. No, I have to say kudos to you guys for putting together such a crazy awesome team. You're definitely role models for all of us too in the first place, which is always it's nice to see. So let's get
Thank you.
into the big questions here. So
Yeah, I'm ready.
apart from what is Fix Young America, in case anyone hasn't heard of it yet,
Sure.
why? Why did you start this campaign? Why now? And where is it going to be going? That was way too many questions in one.
That's okay. I've been really passionate about helping young professionals like myself since I started Brazen Careerist. And right now, youth unemployment is at a 60-year high. It's becoming an epidemic in America, and we put this movement together because we want to do something about it. Because we know that through our work with the Young Entrepreneur Council, that there are real proven solutions out there to this problem. But the problem is that most politicians and most Americans, for that matter, don't even know that they exist. So what we've done is we have collaborated and partnered with 30 plus organizations from around the country led by really hardworking entrepreneurs who have found proven solutions to the problem of youth unemployment. And we've put together a book of those solutions that we're now creating awareness around and fundraising around, so we can put this book into the hands of every politician, every student organization leader, and every relevant decision maker in America, so we can start implementing them at a wide scale level and hopefully do something about the youth unemployment rate.
Now, the big picture for the solution of for youth unemployment is that they adopt entrepreneurism, right, or entrepreneurialism.
Sure.
Now, with that, I mean, there's some questions of whether or not you can learn to become an entrepreneur, or if it's kind of inherently within who you are as a person, the characteristics that you embody. So in the YEC creating this campaign, are you coming at it from the perspective that we can teach young people how to be entrepreneurs and then they will be successful? Can you tell us a little bit about your philosophy?
I believe, and I think we believe as an organization, that entrepreneurship is not something that you're born with. It's not necessarily in your DNA. It's something that can be taught. In fact, I actually, I learned to be an entrepreneur through experience. It wasn't something that I was taught in school. It wasn't something that was ingrained in me early on. But what we'd like to do through Fix Young America is help change that. So a big part of the book revolves around education for entrepreneurs in the K through 12 range, and involves parents integrating entrepreneurship into their children, and then involves more changes in the higher education system as well to integrate entrepreneurship into the culture and make it more of the curriculum that we think is important to really equip and prepare people for the real world.
Okay, so and by the way, if you are watching right now on Facebook, there's a chat going on right below this video, so go ahead and ask any questions that you have for Ryan, since he's on right now live with us, and I'll make sure to relay them over. But I do have a question as far as the campaign goes. There's a number of other campaigns happening right now as far as fixing youth unemployment. What makes you different from those campaigns, as well as some of those other, you see the entrepreneur bus tours, that type of a thing? What makes this campaign different?
Well, I think at the end of the day, what makes us different is that we have better fuel than most organizations, because we are very committed to partnering with other organizations who believe in the same things that we do. We have a great backing of young entrepreneurs within the council who all want to give back in a very powerful way and are all supporting this campaign. But also, we're willing to work with and are working with the other organizations out there that are doing similar things as we are. We've brought together more than 30 organizations who believe in this cause to put together this book. And we've also partnered with organizations such as the Young Invincibles, who are right now doing a bus tour across America to bring some of the same issues into local communities and to local leadership. They're doing roundtables as we speak in order to get the word out and help create a positive change.
Okay. Well, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the solutions that are being provided or that are being written about within this book?
Sure. So one of the most exciting things right now that's just we've had a huge update in is the crowdfunding bill, which will help young entrepreneurs, get more access to startup capital, and the Jobs Act, which is a big part of this whole thing. It's just passed thanks to Congressman McHenry, which he wrote a big chapter in the book about the crowdfunding bill and why it's so important. Another big part of the book itself that's really important to us is mentorship and better entrepreneurship education. So from K through 12 all the way up into the collegiate level, we need to ingrain it more in the actual culture itself. And we have people writing about it, ranging from the president of Babson to the president of NACE, the National Association for Collegiate College Entrepreneurs, which is a mouthful. But we want to encourage more educational institutions to do more to facilitate entrepreneurship in the classroom and within their students.
No, that's awesome because I know that mentorship is definitely a pain point for a lot of young women specifically. It's very hard to find a mentor and then have
Right.
it also be someone that is a woman that has had some of the experiences that we're going through right now. So any work that can be done around that is always one that's appreciated. Now, along
Hmm.
with that, another pain point is student loan debt. And I've seen
Yep.
that mentioned a few times within the campaign. Can you speak on some of the solutions that have been suggested around that pain point?
Sure. So last summer, again, along with the Young Invincibles, who has been an amazing partner for us, we brought a bill to the floor of Congress called the Youth Entrepreneurship Act. A big part of this bill revolves around the idea of student loan forgiveness for entrepreneurs and companies that are able to, able to create jobs and able to create solid growth for their businesses within the first couple of years. One of the big barriers to entry for young people who want to start businesses is the tremendous amount of student loan debt that they come out of college with. So through this program, we're trying to do more to support them and hopefully alleviate some of those struggles so they can help create new businesses and new jobs for young people.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So apart from this, all right, so we talked a little bit about the solutions that are being suggested within this book. How can a young female entrepreneur, or anyone that's watching this for that matter, have access to that book?
Sure. So the book will be released in early May. The best way to get access to the book right now is to contribute to the campaign. If you go to indiegogo.com/Fix Young America, right now we're fundraising, and anyone who provides a contribution to the campaign will automatically get access to the book when it goes live on the 1st of May. There are different tiers of donations that you can give, and every little bit helps, and it's going to be a big part of how we bring this book to the powers that be and the people who can make real change happen. The other way that we're looking for support is just straight awareness. If you go to fixyoungamerica.com, we have a website full of ways that you can get involved and spread the word to like-minded peers. The most interesting way is something called Pass the Baby, and I encourage you all to go there and find out what that actually is. But long story short, it's really our way of encouraging you to provide your own short solutions and ideas to fix young America. So go to fixyoungamerica.com to find out more about that and find a way to contribute that makes the most sense to you.
Awesome. Well, you know what, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show because this is an interesting campaign that everyone needs to be paying attention to, especially for a young female entrepreneur, finding out ways that you can give back, but also ways that the YEC is working to make building your business something that's doable. So
Happy to do it.
yeah,
I'm happy
thank
to be
you.
here, and thank you for everything that you do too.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, now again, he said go to fixyoungamerica.com. You can find out more. If you have been to Young Female Entrepreneurs lately, you can see that I made a little baby out and wrote a short blog post. It's not very hard to do. It takes just a few minutes out of your day, and you can spread the word of what's happening, especially if you network with a more mature audience, I guess. If you're in those networking groups with women, that are in their 40s and 50s, that you can spread the word in that way too. So anyway, Ryan, thank you so much. And hopefully everyone will check out your website.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks.
it.
Have a good night, Ryan.
You too.
All right, so that was Ryan Paugh again of the YEC. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm a huge fangirl when it comes to the YEC. Those guys have done a lot as far as the community of young entrepreneurs go, whether you're a male or a female. Like he was mentioning, there's some legislation that they've been working on. There's a whole lot of education that's happening as far as people within the community are contributing blog posts. These are people that have built huge companies and have had high growth, which is always a nice thing to have in your back pocket. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be getting the women of Granny Cart up, and they were actually profiled on the youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com blog recently. Like I was saying at the beginning of the program, there are two women that met in grad school, and I'm just going to play, I don't know if we have the video queued up or not. We'll play just a short snippet of who they are as I'm getting them up on Skype.
But my mom's American, and we started working together on our master's project at Columbia. It was a digital master's project, multimedia, on Jewish Christian families that raise their children in both religions, and we decided that we worked very well together. And at the end of the year, when we were looking for jobs, there was nothing that really stood out to us. So one of our professors recommended that we start our own company, and so that's what we did in September. And we shoot and edit promotional videos and also work on documentaries. Well, we are two recent Columbia journalism.
So I have the women of Granny Cart on, Granny Cart Productions, and I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves to you. They're fantastic women to know. They have a lot of energy and optimism, which is so nice, because if you've been doing this for a while and your business is feeling stagnant, it's always nice to have women that inspire you around. So without further ado, Elettra and Leah.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you so much for coming on the show. These guys did such a fantastic profile, and it was about 45 minutes or so of video that I had to edit down because I had such a good time talking with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We had a good time too.
Oh, thank you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about each of yourselves? We got to learn just a small amount about what Granny Cart Productions is, and I've been following you in the last month since we've talked, and there's been a lot that's been going on with you since then. So to get started, Leah, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Go for it. She said Leah. Oh, Leah, sorry. Missed that. So my name is Leah. I'm French Lebanese. I went to Columbia Journalism School last year, graduated in May. That's where I met Elettra. I grew up both in France and Lebanon, got a master in journalism in Paris, then got a master in journalism in New York, and this is actually my first job, being self-employed, so it's been pretty fun. Elettra has a bit of another story.
I was working in magazines before I went to Columbia. I worked for American Express Publishing for almost 5 years, and when I started exploring film, oops.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
I'm just making it a little wider so we can see both of you.
When I started exploring using digital cameras for storytelling, I got very passionate about it. And when we were starting to look at what jobs we could have post-graduation, I realized that the only way to be able to do everything that we were taught and that I was excited about was to start our own production company. So that's how I got here.
So now you talked a little bit in the profile about a specific professor that said, I don't know if he encouraged you or mentioned it, that becoming an entrepreneur is an ideal situation, especially when you're in journalism. Can you tell us a little bit about him and what he said?
So the professor is called Doolin Tu, and he's the digital media director at the Columbia Journalism School. And we had interactions with him from the beginning of the year because of our digital master's project. And then in the spring, we had him as our documentary professor. And he's an incredible talent as a professor and as a filmmaker and storyteller. And he really believes in his students and pushes them forward. So he heard us complain about the lack of cool jobs out there, and he also had started his own production company at a certain point, so he knew that it was feasible and recommended that we take 1 year and kind of do a second master's in life and in filmmaking. So he's been really influential in the birth of Granny.
He has a lot of quotes, and it's very cheesy, but it's still very good. So I'm gonna say it. He says the best investment you can do is in yourself, and that's what we've been doing. So yeah.
No, that's fantastic. So why Colombia? How did you guys end up there?
I ended up there because I never thought of American education and American university. I didn't know much about it, to be very honest with you. I didn't even know what Ivy League meant or anything, but my school in Paris had a dual degree program with Columbia that just started, and I got on board during the second year. The second year it happened, and when I got into Columbia, I didn't even know that Columbia was Ivy League or what Ivy League was. So that's how far I come from.
And for me, instead, all the journalists that I encountered and respected and looked up to while I was in magazines had all been to Columbia Journalism School. And when I started looking for a more digital journalistic path, I spoke to some of them, and the program came highly recommended, as well as some of the professors and former students. So that's, obviously it's the #1 school for journalism in the U.S. And also, there's some other great programs out there like NYU and UC Berkeley and USC. But in terms of digital media practical training, this was really the #1. And also, just being in New York City is invaluable. The connections that you make through the school because of the professors and the other students and the alumni, that has been very valuable for us and for many of our colleagues.
And it's only a 10-month program compared to 2 years for most other schools. So that's a big plus when you want to get into the workforce faster.
And that's a lot in 10 months too. So now you talked talking about Columbia again, and we just had Ryan Paugh on the show, who is with the Young Entrepreneur Council, and they're doing Fix Young America. And a big part of that is getting universities in, promoting entrepreneurship as a viable option. Now, there was the professor that gave you the inspiration to do this, but are there any actual programs or classes that you took during the program, during your master's, that taught you some of the lessons that have allowed you to build this business?
There was non-credit class that lasted for, if I remember correctly, around 12 sessions with Ken Lehrer, who is one of the founder of the Huffington Post. And it was about entrepreneurship and how to create your own business in media. And it was not credited, and it was based on a volunteer to attend, but it was a fascinating class, and Elettra and I attended each of them. And I think that's one of the main things that we got out from. But Columbia is very supportive of startups and entrepreneurs, and they even have a list on their website with all the Columbia grads that created their own businesses. And we were invited earlier in the year to talk at a panel of startups from former Columbia grads. So they're very supportive, and they really believe in their students.
Oh, that's cool.
The other thing is they teach you the value of social media, which kind of means building the audience for the work that you do. And I was very shy on Facebook before. I had a Twitter account, but I never tweeted. And they really pushed us forward with that, especially the dean of the students, Srinivasan. I always mix up the pronunciation of that. But so I learned how to use Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn to really spread the word about our work, which obviously has helped a lot also for Granny Cart.
All right, so I'll come back to the social media piece in a bit, but you brought up living in New York City and how much that has helped you in building your business. Can you talk a little bit about like specific ways that has helped as far as how you were able to meet people and whether or not you think that you'd be able to build this business in any other city in the U.S. or even in France?
That's something we ask ourselves a lot, and we always come back to the same conclusion that there's no place like New York. There's the incredible amount of talent here, and the open-mindedness and fast pace is really rare. The energy and kind of the believing in young people, it's very hard to find that in other cities. We recently actually got back from Brazil where we were shooting videos for a client, and we had the opportunity to be in Sao Paulo for one day. Oh. And it was a very energetic city, and obviously it's growing at a very fast pace. So I think emerging markets like that are, maybe could somehow compare to New York City, but New York City still remains the number one on our list. And we go to a lot of networking events and other events through various networks, like tech startup networks, Columbia, and, other like our alma mater events, and just friends that invite us to different things. And we're very open to any kind of event that's culturally interesting, because it opens our mind and opens us to learning about new stories that we might want to cover, or either by finding clients or finding stories for documentaries. Is there anything else you want to add to that? New York City.
Just like there's so much happening that sometimes we're like, okay, we can't go to everything, so we try to split, but then we're only two, so what do we do? Like, there's always a limit to how much you can achieve, right? So
all right,
that's the problem we're facing. Too much.
Yeah. Speaking of geography, now you mentioned a little bit in the profile, and I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but you mentioned the issues of that come with visas and being an international woman, basically. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with, well, actually, why don't you tell everyone about the visa issues, if you don't mind?
Sure. No, not at all. So Elettra is American-Italian, so she doesn't have any problem staying and working here. I am French, Lebanese, and Swiss, but none of those passports will help me stay here. So my visa expires in July, so I'm actually applying right now for another visa to be able to stay after that date. I'm right in the middle of it, scanning paper and filing paper and writing a business plan and all that. So we're trying to sponsor me to stay here. We're very proud because we are actually to the point where we can pay for the sponsorship by ourselves without asking for help. So that's already a good thing.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's our first big investment. Having me stay in the US.
It's worth
and
it.
We'll see what happens. I mean, fingers crossed, and if it doesn't work, we'll think of something else. We'll figure it out.
So plan B is not something that you've even touched on yet. It's definitely you're going to stay here.
I mean, that's the best option, and that's honestly the only one I can think of right now. I'm having trouble imagining having to leave. But if we have to go, we already talked of some options and of some places we might be able to go. We have a lot of passports between the two of us. So we have some options, and we'll figure it out when the time comes.
The chat's saying if the passport doesn't work out, you can always go back to Sao Paulo.
That was actually one of the reasons we went. We wanted to check it out.
Oh, very nice. So along the lines of travel, it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of travel as well as, well, actually, before we get into the travel piece, why don't you tell us a little bit about the documentary that you mentioned in the profile and where you are at with the status of that?
We're very thrilled to say that we're at, you never know, but we spoke to our source for the documentary we're working on, and we spoke to him yesterday, and he told us that they already got funding from the government of St. Vincent, and they're looking for other funding to be able to pursue their mission this summer, which is something that we're going to be filming if it happens. So we're very excited. 90% is a great number to hope for, and there's another 10% that fingers crossed will happen. So if that happens, then we've already applied to one grant, and we're searching for other funding options for us to follow him.
So the documentary is about this man who is a Garifuna, which is an Afro-Carib culture from the island of St. Vincent in the Caribbean, but in the island, because of the history of the island, no one speaks the language anymore. And there's a very strong culture, language, and music to it that is considered endangered today. And he lives in New York, but he wants to go back over the summer for a month to teach kids who live there their language and their songs, and then have a festival at the end to reconnect people there with their original culture. So we want to go back with him and follow him through his journey.
Now, how did you find him?
We read an article about endangered languages, found the contact of this linguist who was mentioned in it, who is based in New York. In New York, he runs an Endangered Language Alliance. Met with him, talked with him. We actually did some work for him, and he mentioned those guys, and we're like, that sounds great. Like, can you put us in touch with them? And we met with them, and we already did a small video on a music band that he has called the Afro-Garifuna Jazz Ensemble, and that's how we started, and we've been following them ever since.
That's so cool. So, all right, going back into some practical tips that you can share with some young female entrepreneurs that are watching today. You travel a lot. You've got two different pieces in your business, really. You've got the documentary piece where you're following him, and then you also have the branding piece, which you were just saying you got back from Brazil recently, right? That was on that side. So how do you balance all of that? How do you keep your sanity? How do you keep organized? All of that fun stuff. I don't want to say balance in life. I'm just saying, how do you keep things together? What are your tips?
Well, we don't travel that much. We were out for Brazil for 10 days. But apart from that, and we're going again in the summer, also for documentary, fingers crossed again. But apart from that, we're pretty much here. But yeah, it is a challenge because when you travel, you think about all the opportunities that you have when you travel, meeting new people, discovering new places, all that. But then you also need to take into consideration what you're actually missing. So we've been having some discussion about that, trying to figure it out, find the right balance. And we're getting there, I guess. Well, the thing is, we started so recently that it's kind of hard sometimes to get the bigger picture at this point. So I think that in a couple more months, maybe 4 months, when it'd be like 10 months we're working, we're going to be able to look back and get a better sense. Right now we're trying to make sure we don't miss out too much, I guess. That's the idea.
In terms of advice for other young entrepreneurs of keeping balance and making sure you follow up on everything, we have a lot of reminders in our phones, our iPhones, and we CC each other on all work emails. some things are so exciting that we can't forget. There's someone we need to follow up with tomorrow for a possible gig. And I've been dying to send him an email for a week now.
Every day. Can I send the email? No, not yet.
So there's some things that you don't forget. Another gig that we recently got for a very successful watch blog called Houdinki by another Columbia Journalism School alum. We're doing some work for him next week, and we had met him back in, I don't know, October, November, and we just really wanted to work with him. So we kept on following up, and finally, and he kept on saying, yeah, I'm interested in working with you guys. And it just, I think that persistence really pays off with, just keeping people in mind. And after every event, we make sure we follow up with everybody, and we link to them on LinkedIn, on Facebook. We invite them to check out our website, to like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. So a lot of hefty communication skills.
Okay, so there's a really great question that's in the chat right now, and that is that because there are two of you and you make such a great team, how do you divide the responsibilities within the business?
Well, we have very similar skills, so most of what we do is interchangeable. So if one day, I'm working on web design, she's working on the business plan, or if I'm working on the editing, she's working on the shooting, or, we can, change it up so we also don't get too, into one task that we lose perspective on what we're doing in terms of even aesthetic value. But besides that, I would say Lea's very responsible and very practical. Sometimes I'm a little too spontaneous and want to say yes to everything, and she thinks things through. I think because of that, I also talk to a lot more people, like networking thing. But Lea's been really good about that too. And one of our best clients, who's a repeat client, came from a connection that Lea fostered. So it's a lot of, I don't know, it depends.
It's very spontaneous because, I know we're lucky, and I know it's not always the case in partnerships, but we get along so well. And we're both really hard workers at the end, even if Elettra might be more spontaneous and me more down to earth. But we both really work hard, and so we kind of split it spontaneously, and we don't really keep track. And we never had the problem of blaming the other one for not doing enough or anything. Yeah, sometimes one of us get a little distracted, and we snap the other one back into work gently, and it's all good. Like, we never had a big issue. So far we've been keeping it spontaneous, but maybe down the road we'll change that. But as long as it's working, we're just going to keep it like that, I think.
And also, it's easy when it's just the two people, because you actually have there's a sense of humor that I think we had talked to you about. We laugh a lot during the day, so that keeps us sane. And I think if we hopefully will start growing and have the opportunity to hire more people, we'd love to. We have some people in mind that we'd love to hire. We have a freelance composer that works with us often, but there's some other kind of skills that we would like to incorporate. And maybe when we start growing, we might have to have more of a structure, yeah. But we're probably always going to have a fun company because that's the kind of people we are, and the point of having a company is that you're passionate about it and that you're having fun with it. Somebody last year at the journalism school, I can't remember who it is, maybe you remember, said, like, don't forget the fun of it. Like, that's the whole point. And nobody goes into journalism thinking that they're going to be making money. We're not investment bankers. so we're definitely not in this to make money, but, we think that if we're doing what we love and we are passionate about it and we're working hard at it because we love it, then, the rest will come as, organically.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is in the chat, and if you're just coming right now, we're speaking with the women of Granny Cart Productions, and I am on chat if you're watching on Facebook. So if you ask them a question, I'll make sure to relay it over it. I just forgot my question because that was a good question, and I'll get to it in just a second, Danielle. Okay. So speaking of partnerships, in the profile, you mentioned ego and how you leave your ego at the door, and that's how it's made your partnership a success, which I thought was awesome, especially as being young women. I feel like that can be an impediment in growing your business. Can you speak a little bit on that point if you remember it? Because you said it very eloquently in the profile.
Actually, the pride comment didn't. I remember hearing it for someone who I was explaining to how great our relationship between Elettra and me was, and I was trying to put a word, like explain why it was so great, and why, even if, as Elettra said, we come always from completely opposite perspectives all the time. Like whenever something comes up, I'm down to earth, Elettra is all for it. And then we always reach a middle ground, always, and it never sours. And this person, I don't remember who, said, well, that's because there's no pride, and it just clicked. And that's so true, because even if we come from different perspective, we're always able to talk it through without bringing it to the personal level or having like bitter conversation about it, and we end up coming to some common ground, and that's why it works out so well.
Mm-hmm.
No, I thought that was a fantastic comment to make, and one that it helps, I think, starting from the very beginning, that you're realizing that, yes, we're going to go ahead and check our pride at the door and make sure that we're both in it for the same reason. And a few young women who YFE has profiled has said that they're able to work with a partner because they all have the same goals and the same passions, the same endpoint in mind. But anyway, getting into Danielle's question, who are your role models? That's a good one.
That's a very good question.
People in journalism, business.
Well, there are various role models for different things that you do. I would say I have a personal one and a professional one.
Go for the professional one.
My personal one is probably my father, because he went for a dream, something that he envisioned, and he had a lot of obstacles, and he just kept at it and accomplished it, years in the making. And I admire that quality a lot. And professionally, it's very tough because there's not anybody who's exactly done what we're doing. But definitely, I mean, our mentor, Dulintu from Colombia that we were talking about earlier, he's incredibly talented and has strong ethics, and somehow manages to do what he loves, and he's great at it and inspires everybody around him to learn more, to work, produce better work. And then there's another one that I wouldn't really call a role model, but we recently filmed Arianna Huffington for the Columbia Journalism Review.
Wow.
That will be coming out soon. And she's a very interesting person. There are a lot of things that are different from how I am or from what I want to do, but I think that she came from a background that was not journalistic, really, even though her grandmother somehow was started a blog that she wrote up about. But she's just an incredible woman who's gone for what she believed in and has worked really hard and has created an empire under her. So that's, any woman who can do that and, is happy about it, then I think that's something to look up to.
Yeah, definitely have a lot of admiration for women who make it in places that are mainly male. It's always very tough to be the first one out there, and that they don't need to be famous or huge. It's just that step is already pretty big. I remember we were at business meetup, and it was only guys, and there was this one older woman who was standing alone, and Elettra, coming from an all women's college, was like, this lady we need to talk to. And I was like, why? And she said, she's the only woman here. If she's here, it means that she's really involved into women making it, and she probably has an interesting story. And she went to her, and that was exactly the case. And she was super happy to talk to us and to meet with us. And I think that's something to keep in mind. That's something I've learned that day.
That's an interesting point. So I've got two questions, and I could talk to you for forever, because you both have really incredible stories that are very unique. But there's a question on the chat that is a good one. What subject or person would you like to most document?
I answered this recently, so I have a quick answer for that. I'd love to, I've been wanting to for a long time, document the women in the south of Italy who are fighting against the mafia. So
interesting.
That's my goal at some point.
And one story that's been very dear to me for a while now is also related to my home country. It's about old houses in Lebanon, and most particularly in Beirut, that are getting destroyed every day to build big, horrible towers. That's my opinion. Some people love them because they think they make it look like New York. So I always wanted to follow that story and find a family who's been fighting to preserve their family house. And actually, Anthony Shadid, the New York Times correspondent who passed away recently, and whose book just got published, wrote about how he restored his old family house in Lebanon, because he's originally from there. So I haven't read it yet, but I can't wait.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so time's running down. So if you're on the chat now, thank you so much for coming. I wanted to ask you one other question, though, and it has to do with being a young female entrepreneur and whether or not you feel like that has provided you any type of advantages. Now, you mentioned social media earlier on in the interview, and also networking, the ability to go in and meet people, woo people, if you want to say that. Do you think that being a female in journalism, in creating documentaries, has that given you an advantage?
I mean, I mentioned this in the interview, and I think it's still true that I was surprised that people, when we introduce ourselves, people actually say, that's great, you're young and you're an entrepreneur, but they also notice you're women. And they, for some reason, it's something special. I never considered it something special, but for some reason, it seems to be making an impression on people. And whatever works at this point, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's very rare to find, especially two young women, like as a team. Sometimes it's a man and a woman, or just one woman, or just one man. But we rarely hear about two other young women doing what we're doing. So it gets attention. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we just want to produce good work. So that's the most important thing. And if, we get attention because we're women and because we're young, then good. But if it's, good work, then it'll get attention no matter what. And hopefully, any young or old person, for that matter, a 90-year-old, documentary filmmaker or a person who becomes a documentary filmmaker at that age, like great, just anybody who believes in it should do it.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved that response. And we're showing photos right now of you carrying around equipment. And in the profile, you speak a little bit about how technology now, as far as filmmaking goes, has made it so compact and just so easy for anyone, really, whether it's a crew or if it's two people, to making movies a reality, which is nice. So anyway, you can go over to youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com tomorrow to check out their profile. It'll be live along with the live stream that we're doing right now. But is there anywhere that you'd like them to go to after this to check out?
Yeah, you can follow the Granny at Granny Cart on Twitter, or like us on Facebook and
you can also check our website, grannycartproductions.com, and see our work and what's about to come out.
And everything is word of mouth, so
if you hear of anyone who needs a video.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And so that was Elettra and Leah of Granny Cart Productions. Like they said, check out their website. If you haven't yet, I've also got right now, this instant, you can go over to youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com and read their profile and see a few photos that you may not have caught in the live stream. Again, thank you so much for coming tonight. Everyone did a fantastic job. Lots of great questions. Ryan Paugh, if you missed him earlier, again, check out the blog tomorrow. But otherwise, have a fantastic evening, and I'll see you back here next Thursday, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. Thanks so much.